Connor, it's a process, man. Hello everyone. We are back and we're doing a quick reaction to Direct and State of Play cuz things happened to this week.
Cool.
And last week, but we didn't talk about it yet.
Yeah. And this is no gaming scientist because we didn't announce the name of the show.
If someone's listening to this, they know who we are. All our German fans,
Uh,
they know who we are,
well, still,
specifically the German fans.
it's the right way to do things.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about Nintendo Direct and then we'll sprinkle in some State of Play and then I'm going to sprinkle in some Sega, I guess technically Sega, but Ubisoft announcements as well. And then we'll talk about why we're excited. First game going off our list, Fire Emblem Engage, Connor. Um, how many Fire Emblem games have you played?
um, I played the two for the Switch, not the Switch, sorry, the two for the Game Boy Advance.
Okay.
I briefly played the re-release on the DS,
Mm-hmm.
and I've played Three Houses. I can't recall if I finished the storyline. I think I got pretty far in it. I don't think I finished it in Three Houses. But I did like it. I didn't hate, but I don't think like the like sim part of the game was really my favorite part. So
I love the sim parts of the game.
sure, but I'm more there for the actual like combat and like
Mm-hmm.
functions that are core to the combat loop. And there was some of that stuff in the earlier game, but they expanded out a ton of it, and I was not as engaged in it. Now I will say that I did appreciate to some extent that like you had opportunity for fighting additional battles if you needed to for like getting more loot and experience and whatnot. Because um, I don't know, I just remember Sacred Stones had that tower you could do that to a lot, but like the first game on the GBA was there wasn't really a lot of room for additional battles, so like weak units were hard to actually
Mm-hmm.
level up at a certain point. So like you'd get a unit like maybe third of the way through the campaign, and like
That's like
getting
underleveled
them
compared to
to
everyone else. Yeah.
yeah, getting them to actually be competent was a real challenge. Um, yeah, and then the one on the DS, like you could just reclass every character into whatever you wanted.
Yeah. So my first Fire Emblem game was I think it was just called Fire Emblem, released on the GBA, but it was like some numbered entry at that point in the original series where
Right. It
it
was
was
it
like
was
the I
not
can't
the
remember her
original.
name, like Lynn or something like that. I
Yeah, it was
played
Lynn.
that. Then Sacred Stones. I didn't play either of the Game Boy, GameCube or Wii ones. Like the ones with
Yeah.
Ike.
I didn't play the ones on the GameCube or the Wii.
Yeah. And
Um,
then played all but all the DS ones except I think there was a remake thrown in there. I think like Shadow Dragon or something like that. Um, and then Three Houses, I beat one storyline. I haven't finished the other two, and I want to go back to it because I really did like Three Houses a lot. I think with this one, my it looks a lot nicer, and I'm not sure why necessarily. But I'm also confused at the same time. Like, is this a mainline game or because it seems like you're summoning like older heroes from past games? So is this more of like a side like anniversary situation and that this is not like a
yeah,
mainline entry. Like it gives me that
yeah.
vibe.
I wasn't able to exactly tell where it fits. I can't tell because I don't know enough about like the lore of Fire Emblem
Absolutely
overall.
not. Yeah,
But
no.
but like because I can't tell if it's like you're bringing people in from other games into this world, or is it just taking place within that storyline within that world.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know the answer to that. So,
Yeah, because I see
um,
Marth, I see Lynn. I don't know if I
mhm,
see Roy. So, and I do know, I think from previous like leaks and discussions that this was meant to be released a lot earlier,
mhm.
but things got moved around because COVID and all that jazz.
Yeah, I
Um,
was. Excuse me. I was nervous when in the original, when I originally first saw the trailer. I was like, "Oh, is this another, Warriors game?" Which I'm not interested in. Unfortunately, I'm not interested in that. So I was happy to see it was at least a full on Fire Emblem game. So
Mm.
I'll likely look into it. I don't know if I'll be getting it day one or anything. Partly
Yeah,
just because there's
and
there's there's a lot of stuff coming out this fall, and I kind of want to get other things
well,
more.
this one's early January of next calendar year,
Okay, well then
so
maybe I'll get it
it'll
after
probably
the
be a day
holidays,
one
but
for
we'll
me.
see.
I'll be curious to see like one, how does the summoning work? Do you get to summon and they permanently stay there? Or is it a like a one summon per battle, or there is there a limitation to how much you can summon them? And then additionally, what I'm a little confused about, well, one, since it's playing on the screen right now, I think the animations look a lot better, and like just in general, the presentation of the battles and the like map look better.
Yeah, I think
That
they
was
went
something
with.
about
I
Three
think they
Houses
went
that
with like
looked
a.
like a little janky looking.
Well, I think they went with like a 2.5D kind of
Mm-hmm.
situation in Three Houses because they weren't trying to like over stress the tech at the time.
Yeah,
Because they did that in the past, like with the GameCube one, they kind of overdid what they thought they could do. Like it didn't look good. Like
but
the combat stuff didn't look very good because of how they tried to do it. But this looks at least like it has both the sensibility of the combat mechanics that you're used to with a more like refined, like isometric 3D perspective, and the animations for the battles are seemingly in full
I'm gonna
3D.
try to do this and hopefully not break everything.
Don't break
Um,
everything.
yeah. So go. I'm gonna go back to the battles. Um, or
Yeah.
now the world map here looks janky as heck. It does not look good. Like the actual like map you're walking around in.
Uh, yeah.
Like
A lot of times that's how.
texturally it looks very bland. Like right here is the shot I'm talking about specifically. Him running up
Yeah, and
the
then of course
stairs,
you got to have the weird ass partly blue and partly red
hair. But
hair.
yeah, like this building in particular, I remember seeing and I was like, oh, this looks not good. Like,
Yeah,
but again,
Brandon Sanderson would be proud.
hmm
That's a stupid reference, but in the Stormlight Archive, like some of the characters have like completely baffling hair colors. Like they have black and blonde in the same hair color.
hmm
Not not white, not like their hair has gone partially white. No, no, no. Black and blonde. Completely asinine, but whatever. I still like the
but I'm
series.
excited. I do wonder, are they going to continue some of the sim elements? Relationships, all that jazz. It looks like there's team up moves, so I assume that's going to be a
Yeah,
big,
that's a
and that's a
that's something
little
I've been doing for a
exciting.
while.
hmm But like these look like way more
So,
involved team up moves. And again, like
yeah.
this
What
part
what's
right here,
what's
she's animated so well, and that looks like it's in game. It's not like a CG cutscene.
yeah, what's frustrating for me, not frustrating like as in like this doesn't look good or whatever. Yeah, that kind of does look like they're doing some sort of like bringing those people into their own dimension kind of thing. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out about that. And because I mean, I don't know, Marth was like surrounded by that weird blue fire the
Like
whole time,
this
which
ethereal fire. Yeah.
doesn't seem like something that would normally happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's never been represented that way in the media I've seen in the past.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, that's why I'm engaged. I mean, we expect a pretty decent to very good strategy game. The story will
mhm.
be, coin flip on whether it's everyone's tastes, but
I just
the
really
art.
like need. I want to see other people. This looks really nice. I want to see other people like get some of these kinds of like grid based strategy games, and not like XCOM, but like in this kind of vein
Oh no,
more
absolutely.
often because
But
like
hold on.
you
Let's
haven't
take a
seen a good
moment.
like Final Fantasy Tactics game in years.
They
Obviously, there's
keep fucking teasing us, Connor.
triangle strategy, but like I haven't finished it. I didn't play it much. My understanding, though, is a lot of it was a lot more like story and narrative heavy, and a lot less battles than it seemed there would be.
Yeah, and
So
unfortunately, the story is not
I'll get through it
my cup of
eventually,
tea. Yeah, like
but
it's on my
like
back burner. But
once I heard that from like you, and then I think min max or whatever, I was just like, I'm not that interested in sticking this out because the combat in the first couple segments was like okay, but not. It
Mm-hmm.
didn't grab me right away.
The
So
level design
I
is
just
really good though. I will say,
I
like,
want
yeah.
yeah, the engine looks great, and that's why they keep using it for things. Um, but I'm interested in seeing someone else come out with a game like this because like right now Fire Emblem is one of the few doing it,
Mm-hmm.
and there hasn't been like a Final Fantasy Tactics game in years.
Yeah, because like you.
I'd welcome it a lot right now, and I'd welcome one that whether it was in based in like the Ivalice world or somewhere else.
Yeah,
Um,
because I wonder Final Fantasy 12 Revenant Rings on either the DS or the 3DS. I wonder if I went back to try that, would I enjoy it as much as I did this? But can we take a moment to look at like the muscles that these people have? Like, look at Lynn's thighs right here. They are toned beyond belief. Look at this man's thighs. Look at them.
yeah, I can barely see it because you have the video so small.
Yeah, but trans transition to the beautiful engine, Octopath Traveler 2.
Yeah,
I never played
uh,
the original.
I have it on my Switch, and I keep meaning to go back to it. I need to restart it really if I play it again because I it's been too long. I
So
think it's been like a year since I tried it at all. So
I think battle system wise, I would enjoy it, but I think I remember reading like the story doesn't really coalesce as much as you'd want it to, or like
mhm.
narratively, it just feels like you would
I
think
mean,
very
it
disconnected.
they just re-released the old game,
Live Alive,
Live Alive,
which I want
which
to try. I
feels like a precursor to this kind of game.
mm-hmm.
Like it feels like the kind of thing that Square Enix would have done, or probably SquareSoft at the time. I would think. I'm not sure
SquareSoft,
if
yeah.
it was before their merger, but uh, it feels like the kind of thing that they would have done in the past, and so this was kind of a throwback to that kind of thing where it didn't necessarily have to connect and coalesce. It just
Oh, it's fading off right now.
because the story came together like that, like there was some sense that it had to, and I think some of that is also like our training of modern novels and narratives, not like because this has to happen actually, like in any fundamental sense. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Yeah, and
So,
I think I'm more excited about this because each of the characters that they cycled through seemed way more interesting than what I remember the first game had.
oh yeah, this does look interesting. I
In terms
mean,
of like just their background, like
mhm.
um like yes, you got your standard like Ronin warrior kind of paladin
they
type character, but then you have like this.
they are doing classic JRPG combat again, which I'm mixed about. I almost
I
wish that
eat that
they
shit up, Connor. You know that I eat that
well, let me
shit
put
up.
it this way. I kind of wish they would lean into like a um what's the word I'm looking for? Like action turn based or something. So like what Chrono Trigger, like the Chrono Trigger type
I
combat,
see.
because I really enjoy that combat.
Right.
Um, but this does look interesting, and I will probably pick it up. But I really ought to play the first one before jumping into this again. So,
Yeah. For me, I feel like not missed the boat, but like I missed the window of the discourse. So if I do decide to play, it's just like on my own. It's on sale now, so that might be tempting. Again, it's gorgeous. Like the 2D, the HD 2D, like whatever. See, look at this, a dancer. That's way more interesting than like merchants.
didn't the first one have a dancer?
I don't know, but like she looked interesting. Like the
I could be
merchant.
wrong about I could be wrong about
Yeah.
the actual character.
Okay, this thief
Um,
looks interesting to me. This
yeah,
like femme
I do
fatale.
appreciate that it's more. I think the first one was like much more like ancient world, perhaps medieval world
This is
setting.
leaning more towards
This
like
is
a
like this is like Age of
probably
Exploration,
yeah, like
early industry kind of stuff.
in somewhere
Hmm.
where we call like the 1800s ish, right?
Yeah, I mean, if we put it in our own world, that would be
Yeah,
roughly where it is, but
yeah.
it's hard to
But
say
but
exactly because,
more than
like,
just straight up like medieval times is what we're
yeah,
getting at here. Which like
yeah,
don't get me wrong, I love a medieval story, but it is a tired trope that I don't necessarily want every
it's very
JRPG to go
played.
into. Yeah. I'm
It's
much more
very
interested in
polite.
like the, like you said,
Not
age of
to,
exploration, steampunky. Like, yes, we
yeah,
have swords, but we also have steam engines kind of worlds.
more. Well, I mean, to be honest, like they would have like swords and like horses and cavalry were still technically useful up through like in our world, World War I.
Mm-hmm.
Just because like guns were so often so unreliable that like a horse charge with sabers was still effective.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but this looks interesting. Um, and not to derail or anything, but as far as like interesting settings and environments, I think that is what makes like Chrono Trigger so memorable. It's
Yeah,
just
you're
the
hopping between
variety,
these times,
yeah,
and
the variety of like uh elements in the story that kind of bring the whole thing
yeah,
together.
and don't get me wrong, there's some tropes like every JRPG has that desert area, it has an icy area, it has like this and that, but
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
still make them stand out even if they do follow that trope, right? But yeah, I'm excited to see this. This might push me to finally try um the original, which is both on Steam and Switch. I wonder, is there a huge performance boost on PC so I can just get it and play it on my Steam Deck if it's verified and go from there. Um, but yeah, I think the last one for the direct, and really this will be just more of a quick aside, if anything, is Zelda. So everyone thought that it was gonna be a Wind Waker HD, Twilight Princess HD announcement, port announcement, but then we just straight up got
Mm.
now known as Tears of the Kingdom, which like you
Interesting.
said prior to recording,
I'm
not much is shown, just some more.
very little is shown. Link has
Now,
some kind of glider
yeah,
thingy. That
here, mm-hmm, go ahead.
yeah, go for it.
So here, and I'm sure you've heard discourse or maybe have read discourse, but here we
Not
see
really.
seven, and you can't see my cursor, but I'm tracing these seven little like jewels that are floating above this
Hmm.
thing. So from my memory, those look like Magatama. I'm butchering the name, I'm sure, but yeah, Magatama, which are like these spirit, I believe, jewels. Um, Let me look at again. Hold on. But they're these Japanese jewels that in the Ace Attorney games were like sources of spiritual power. So we see seven of them floating above this figure, and a lot of Discord I've read is like, well, could that be hinting at seven distinct dungeons, which is like a big complaint about Breath of the Wild, and my own personal complaint is that
Hmm.
they steered too much away from like the dedicated dungeons to have just again still dedicated shrines, but like those the small shrines. I wanted what I said in the sequel is more big dungeons, more specific dungeons, and I everyone's interpretation is like this is leaning towards that, and I think that leans towards like the seven sages at least, or something analogous in Breath of the Wild world.
So as a side note, because I just looked this up to find it, and like from the pictures that you see, the images online, it's
Mm.
pretty clear to me that they leaned into this concept in Naruto with the like I can't remember what they call it in the series or whatever, but like the shinobi eye or whatever the hell they call it. The eye, the special eye that like has special powers or whatever.
I don't.
Anyway,
Naruto's a foreign thing to me. I know it exists, but like, it's
it's
just too much.
yeah. I haven't read it in ages, but when I was younger, I subscribed to Shonen Jump magazine before it went defunct in the United States, so I did read it monthly.
Yeah.
Um,
Say with One Piece, I have students who ask me, and I'm like, nope, too much. I'm. I don't
yeah,
have that. I don't have that amount of time.
it's like 3,000 episodes right now, and it's
Yeah.
not done.
I have no.
I think the manga is like wrapping up pretty soon,
Yeah.
but it's like
Do not have enough time for that. But yeah. So that, and then the art seems very Aztec-y to me, which is like a very gross simplification, but it seems like Central American type art. Because when I saw that figure in the middle, I immediately thought like
It
Quetzalcoatl
the thing
or something like that.
is the thing is Zelda has always borrowed from, like
Exactly.
they've always, like,
Yeah.
merged 3 or 4 different cultural traditions into, like, one
Mm-hmm.
because they're clearly taking traditions from, like,
Celtic
Japanese tradition. They're
and Celtic.
they clearly take tradition from, like, Chinese traditions.
Yeah, like
There's obviously, like and obviously there's overlap there anyway, like, you're gonna get a lot of, like, Taoist and Zen,
yeah.
imagery that are both Chinese and Japanese because like, they've long been
Mm-hmm.
traditions in both regions, but
Um.
then they borrow a lot from, like, this right here, they borrow a lot from, like, Mesoamerican
Yeah.
imagery
Exactly. Like this
and
glider is
and
total
European
Mesoamerican,
imagery.
and then the symbol itself screams Ouroboros, right? Like
Mhm,
so. Another thing people have theorized, and I don't know much about the actual theory, but there's a what's I guess called a cycle theory, which I believe the main premise is that like this one will after you complete it will reset a cycle back to Skyward Sword. And so
mm.
up until this point the games are just a cycle of each other. The series is a cycle that just continues ad infinitum,
Which it's seemingly with, like, the floating islands is kinda hinting at something like that, which,
Yeah,
if that's the case, it makes a little more sense why they would have released Skyward Sword on the Switch because
to like lean into or
a lot of people,
eventually,
myself included, like, wasn't very happy with that being the one that get got released on the Switch,
but
and, like,
maybe that.
I could not get past the combat, like, I
Yeah,
couldn't
yeah.
finish it. I couldn't play it further than, like, part of the first dungeon because it was just too there's too much, like
The implementation of the motion controls, while admirable, still is like wonky.
yeah, and it's
And
like
you know what? I appreciate
it
the
didn't
effort, but it didn't land, and that's okay.
and it didn't feel like I was getting anything out of it beyond, like, frustration when it didn't register my joystick flick
Yeah,
properly, and so I was losing not because I wasn't able to
and
competently fight, I was losing because the controls were not registering the right way, and I'm like, "Ugh." But
yeah,
anyway, let's not get bogged down in it. But the other
and
thing that is interesting about this here is I am interested to see, like, where that the glider thing goes. Like, is it a glider or is it like because it's hard to say, is it a glider that you can, like, just access at any time, or is it something that's like some sort of transport device that you just
hmm
utilize occasionally
and
and in scripted or, like, prescribed regions or something like that.
one has to
Um,
wonder, you know,
and what's going on with, like, the stone rising.
yeah, and also
Um,
like the game. I love that game, but it struggled to run sometimes.
mhm,
Let's not pretend. So I wonder like how is this new verticality going to affect how the game runs?
mhm.
What
You do have
concessions
to
do
I
they
do
have
have to
to make?
wonder how big are they gonna make the map because that was part of the
Exactly.
problem with it making it run because they don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily need to make it as big. The other thing that they could do is, like, for example, with dungeons and things, because the one thing the other game did is there was really no loading.
No.
Um, they could mask loading, but they could still make, like, loading into dungeons and things like that. Well, there
Mm-hmm.
was loading, but there wasn't a ton, like, into shrines and stuff like that, so there was some, but
Yeah.
not like there is in most Zelda games and even a lot of other modern
Not what
games.
you typically think of as loading. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Um, and then also I think I don't know how long after Breath of the Wild this takes place, but like, is it still gonna be this fairly empty Hyrule,
Mhm. Yeah,
or
because that was kind of a disappointment. That I would trade a smaller
it
I would
made sense in like the premise of that first game, right? Where like there's this huge calamity. You have
uh
these little pop up settlements and
Yeah,
everything's
it made sense to a
bustling.
point, but if you added up the number of people you were able to see in that world, it was like less than 200 people, if not less than 100.
Yeah,
And so, like, yeah, to a point.
to a point,
And
but
I get like rendering people on screen is not like the easiest or whatever, but
mm-hmm,
there were more people around in Twilight Princess and
mm-hmm,
other games.
yeah.
There
So
were
and then Also, the techie like bottom half of the Master Sword in the logo
Hmm.
reminds me of Midna from Twilight Princess. So like, it's all over the fucking place in terms of like where are they picking up
Hmm.
any kind of threads or anything like that? Because the coloring of the Ouroboros and
Could this be
the Master
like
Sword remind me of Twilight Princess, like the Twilight
the other
world,
thing that's
very
kind of
much so.
interesting to think about? Is this like before the flood of Hyrule?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like
But I don't know.
I know Nintendo pretty much is like each Zelda game is kind of its own thing. Yes, there's an air quotes a timeline, but when they release the timeline, everyone's like, "Oh, okay, they did this way," so you can just kind of explain away like each entry. But
Yeah. It
nerds like us just really want concrete connections and like reasons for parallels and all that jazz. But yeah,
yeah.
May hopefully maybe probably probably after Fire Emblem Engage, they're gonna start ramping up marketing for this, showing more actual demo and gameplay. Because so far we've gotten is in games. I would call them cinematics. Nothing even touching gameplay or premise. Just vague images that we're gonna pour over forever. Um, but yeah, and that's all for the Nintendo stuff I've got or we have written down. We're gonna jump over to Team Blue, and we're gonna go to the big boy, at least for
Well,
me.
I'm gonna mention something first before we jump, just because.
Oh no, I don't have the video.
Oh no!
Connor.
Oh no! I mean, you don't have to go back. I was just gonna mention, didn't they announced a remastered Tales of Symphonia that
Ah,
I will
yes.
probably get, even though I do know apparently it's based on a like inferior port. Um,
Here we go.
it's based on the
I fixed it. All right,
yeah,
let's get going.
it's based on the PS2 port, I guess, because they lost the source code for the other one, which is always funny to me that that kind of thing happens. It's
No,
like the main
yeah,
reason. It's the main reason that I think it's the main reason they can't re-release like Fallout 3 because they lost the source code.
and then like
Um,
Kingdom Hearts, the original Kingdom Hearts, same thing. Like when they did the PS4 re-release, they had to do it almost from scratch because like they lost the source code because
yeah,
like the servers would catch on fire, something absurd, right? And people are
yeah,
like, the original one ran at 60, and then someone actually like proved, hey, if I took the PS2 version and just simply changed the code so it ran at 60, it looked absurd. Like limbs were flying everywhere. It was hilarious. But yeah, I hold this
mhm.
game dearly. So we'll see how good or bad of a remaster
Well,
it is. You
it's
know,
been a long time since I played it. I don't think I ever finished the game completely. I was gonna replay it on Steam, but this gives me the choice to replay it on the Switch, and I think I would prefer that format, especially if they remaster it. Because even this brief video, some of the uh, animations already look like much better than they do on the Steam version.
yeah, and then
Um, even some of
models
the still
have been updated
shots.
enough
So,
that I'm like not hating it. You know,
mhm, yeah.
but I will say,
So,
having played Tales of Arise, it will be hard to go back to like just that side to side battle system. Um, but
sure,
that's just time,
sure.
right? You can't help that really.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tales of Vesperia already started with kind of a three-dimensional battle system, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
and
Um,
then I think I remember this one being pretty grindy too, and that's my big beef with like the Symphonia, the Tales of games, and most JRPGs is like they become really grindy to a point.
yeah, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That can't be denied.
Mm-hmm. All right,
So,
now
okay.
Team Blue, God of War Ragnarok. So we actually have more of an idea of what's happening, I think. I mean, other than just trying to stop
Yeah,
Ragnarok
I
from
mean,
happening, but
it's still somewhat of an obscure,
still vague enough, you know. But
yeah,
it does lean towards, either passing of the torch or at least I don't know. I get vibes that Kratos is gonna die, but Kratos was also supposed to die at the end of God of War 3, so who knows what's gonna happen. Um,
yeah.
but the biggest thing for me so far in this particular trailer was like Odin, the way they present Odin and Thor. Because much of the cultural consciousness for Thor, at least, comes from the Marvel version, which is not that accurate, especially the Marvel movie version. And then you have this
Mm.
just kind of like brutish dick of a Thor, it seems like. And then Odin, again, you expect to be this bombastic figure, is just this kind of like older man that is challenging Kratos on like a more, not on a physicality level, because that's what Thor's for, but like a, I don't know how to phrase it necessarily.
Right,
Like
and I mean that makes sense in terms of the mythology.
exactly, yeah.
Um, it's like they covered some of it in the first game. I know you're not like the biggest into like Norse mythology in general. I
And
also
and,
like some
and
of
that's
those
not
mechanics
to
like
say
that it just showed there.
like the
Well,
swinging, yeah, yeah.
what I was trying to get at is like um he traded his eye at, I believe it was at Mimir's well, if I'm not mistaken, in order to like gain like greater wisdom and everything. Like he wanted to be able to see and predict the coming of Ragnarok. Like, and he wasn't like as interested in like brute power. He was more interested. That's interesting. Just hanging out next to Fenrir.
This shot is
Um,
gorgeous, by the way. This whole,
yeah,
oh man.
yeah. And I if I'm not, yeah, that's interesting. Um, it's, I mean, spoiler for the first game, I guess, if that, skip forward 30 seconds or whatever. But Loki is supposed to be the father of
Of
Fenrir
Fenrir, yeah.
and
That
Jormungandr, and I believe Hel, if I'm not mistaken.
Hell?
And sure, but it's not
Yeah,
always
yeah.
pronounced. It's not always rendered that way.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's
But
it's often rendered Hel. So it just, I don't know what is actually correct. But and then there's the other one. There's the third. Isn't there a third beast,
I'm gonna look it up.
or is Hel considered the third beast? I don't know if he's supposed to be
Uh,
father of like the world tree dragon or not. I think that might have been a
um,
different.
World Serpent, Jormungandr?
Yeah, Jormungandr. I
Yeah.
think
So
no,
there's,
Dragnapur is the name of the sword in the Malazan series.
yeah, so Hel,
Uh,
Fenrir, and Jormungandr
okay,
are,
that's okay, fair enough. So that's an interesting dynamic that, like, I mean, obviously
oh,
this is
wait,
like,
hold on, there's two more. There's, okay, so by Sigyn, Loki has two sons, Narfi and Nari. And then by
okay,
the frost giant Ang, Angerboa, I'm sorry. Um,
no, that's
it's a
that
the
it's like
letters don't make sense.
too many
Too many.
consonants together.
It's too many consonants
Um,
together without a vowel, and then there's a bunch of vowels together without a consonant. I'm like, what's happening? Um, then yeah, with that frost giant, then you have Hel, Fenrir, and Jormungandr. So there's
yeah, and I
five
can't
children
think of the
total.
name. I can't think of the name of the dragon, the world tree dragon. Which, like, if they don't have you run into that dragon like in a game about Norse mythology, it's just like, what are you doing?
Yeah. But yeah, the combat looks like they expanded enough that it's gonna be a bit more. You can choose a little bit more. Um,
Hmm.
I remember briefly seeing, in Game Informer's cover, like they've expanded the shields quite a bit in terms of like what different types of
Hmm.
shields you can equipped. It
That's
looks like the
good because it was fun occasionally to,
parry.
you know, well, and also I found it fun at a certain point. If you level up the abilities enough, you can have like an intense, like, just shield combat where you're just pummeling people with the shield to like stun them, and then you tear them apart or whatever.
Yeah.
That was really fun, but you had to get it leveled up. Like, it wasn't something you could do early on because it was
Mm-hmm.
not feasible if you're not doing enough of the whatever kind of damage they call it. But um, I did appreciate the axe. I am curious. There are a couple of these scenes that do appear, could just be cutscenes, but I'm wondering if they're going to have any segment where you take over as the kid. It's
Atreus,
hard to
yeah.
say. Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't think of
And
the
then
name for a second for some
obviously,
reason.
you know, Thor and not yeah, Thor and Kratos going ham. But Jen, I
Yeah.
appreciate the design of Thor so much. That is just this, you know, world powerlifting kind of body, not a thin, ripped tower of a man. Um,
Yeah, and I do appreciate the like I don't know, the in the earlier games the gods always seemed interesting. I mean, obviously like Kratos did manage to kill some of them or whatever, but like in the myth, like they're not supposed to be able to die.
yeah.
Norse myth, they've it's always been that the gods can die. They are mortal.
But then also like
Um,
I rewatched recently parts of God of War 3 and like Hercules. You always have this like very mostly again from a Disney Disneyfied view of from the animated movie. But then in the God of War games, God of War 3, he's just like this brute who has like daddy issues and wants approval from everyone has daddy issues basically in Greek mythology. Like
yeah,
it kind of boils down to that, and that's surprisingly like the main theme of like Immortals Phoenix Rising at the same time was how shitty of a father Zeus is. Like I don't know if you ever finished or played it, but like the story was kind of like
I I
Zeus is
played
a
it. I have it on my Switch, which I
yeah,
I probably should go back to it at some point, but
like
there
Zeus
are
is
just
a
too many
shitty
games.
father.
Too many games to play.
That's basically the storyline. Zeus is a shitty father, and
Yeah.
it's looked at through like a comedic lens, but still like it's an interesting take. But yeah, November 9th, I want to say. I don't know the actual date. 9th, yeah. So that's day one buy for me. I'd have to get the PS4 version and upgrade so my brother can also play it because he loves these games as well. He did say he was disappointed with the first one because it kind of just he felt like it ended fairly abruptly, which I kind of would agree. Um, I don't know. I would have to go back and play it, but I do feel like
Yeah,
there was a
I would
little
have to play it
feels
again
like
because
a little bit of an abrupt ending.
I still think I put in like 40 or 50 hours into that game
Mm-hmm.
for the storyline, and a little bit of side mission stuff. Like I didn't complete some of the more complicated and hard side missions, but I did some of them.
Yeah, I
Like
did some of the Valkyries, but not all of them.
I didn't fight any of them. I couldn't even deal with some of the quote unquote easy ones, and I was just like,
Yeah,
I don't
but
need to
again,
stress myself out for this.
yeah, exactly. All right. I mean, the rest of Team Blue is mostly my weird like. So we're gonna go with this one. This wasn't announced at State of Play, so I guess I'm jumping around. But this is Like a Dragon 8, which it's confusing. So if you're confused, it's fair. Is a sequel to the Yakuza games, so it's technically Yakuza 8, but I guess they were like, hey, they're not really in the Yakuza anymore, so we're just gonna change the series names to Like a Dragon instead. But then the reveal being that Kiryu, who is the protagonist from Yakuza 1 through 6, is back as a main protagonist, and he has K-pop boy hair now. Um, but yeah, I Yakuza 7 Like a Dragon was like probably close to, if not my game of the year in 2020, and I'm hyped. I love Ichiban, the new, I say new, but I guess co-protagonist of um
2024.
7. Yeah, they announced this is a fairly early announcement, so
This
that's
is
about
such
it.
an early announcement.
Yeah,
This
but
like
he Like a Dragon felt like a very feel good, or rather, the Yakuza series as a whole and Judgment as well is more just these fools fumbling their way through life, and it'll be like this gritty noir crime thriller,
mhm.
and then the next thing you know, they're stumbling upon a fetish shop that the fetish is like men want to dress up as babies and be treated like little infants, and like that's just playing through the game. And I love that kind of absurdity, I guess. But yeah, they said it's gonna be turn based again, but then they also said in another interview like, hey, whatever the gameplay system is, really kind of depends on the story. And for Ichiban in Seven, he's a big like JRPG nerd, so like that's how they framed it being a JRPG, and I'm okay with that. So it's 2024, quite a while away, but it was worth mentioning, at least for me. I was a huge fan of Like a Dragon 7, so I'm excited to see what antics they get into again. Um, and then I think the last thing for Team Blue was this one, which I'm not sure if you've seen, Connor, or it caught your eye, but it was previously known as Stellar Blade. Sorry, Project Eve, and now Stellar Blade, which looks like to
Hmm.
be in the vein of like a Bayonetta, Devil May Cry type game, which I think I've said before. Like I like those. I want to like those games so much, but at the same time, like I feel like they're not mobile enough for my liking. And this looks like it might be sliding more towards that mobile kind of movement while still being like a character action game. I believe it's a Korean developer, if I'm not mistaken, but it just looks cool. It looks weird. It's very pretty. Unfortunately, it's very anime and very like there's physics that don't need to be there, but they are, and I'm just gonna accept that as it is.
Yeah,
Um,
I see what you mean. Um,
you see what I mean?
eh,
So I'm trying to
but
find the Wikipedia page for.
but ultimately having an interesting like sci-fi game that's not in a world we already know about is
It's
compelling
always gonna be
to me.
exciting. It's yeah, exactly. Okay, it is a Korean developer. So like Korean developers are coming. They're coming because like then we have Liza P, which the discourse on that has been so frustrating because everyone's like, it looks too much like Bloodborne, but then like people always are crying like, give me more Bloodborne. I'm like, you guys are never happy. Like, yes, it's not from software like caliber, but like I don't know.
Yeah.
It it seems too cynical because they'll be like, "Oh,
Well,
this
and
is a rip off
I'm
of
also kind of the
Bloodborne."
mind. I'm also kind of the mind that like, you know, how much how much Bloodborne do you actually need? But
Mm-hmm.
I think
Like,
like you really you think you want more, but like you get to a point where if that's going to get saturated. And I guess there are now, to be fair, there are some gamers who like their only series is like Bloodborne and like fucking Call of
Dark
Duty and
Souls,
Madden or
yeah.
whatever. It's like that's all they play.
Mm-hmm.
So I get it, but or
Yeah,
not Bloodborne, but like FromSoft in general,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the those different games. And like so fine. If that's you, then I guess you're the edge case. Are you not going to talk about Assassin's Creed now?
No,
Is that
because
the like is that the like game that doesn't actually have any kind of
yeah, there's no
news?
actual gameplay. It's just this is announced
Okay.
and
Okay.
that's it. But yeah,
Okay.
Stellar
So
Blade.
I
I'm
mean I have
interested.
a couple that I would like to discuss just real quick
Okay,
because they sound interesting to me.
lay it on me,
I
Connor.
haven't I haven't watched a trailer or anything, but I'm looking at some screenshots.
Tell me a name.
Um Rise of Ronin.
Oh, okay. I should have put that.
Yeah, Rise of Ronin looks interesting to me. Obviously I played Ghost of Tsushima and like it
And everyone's
looks
kind of like,
really
this looks like a reaction to Ghost of Tsushima in terms of like, hey,
that it does
Westerners
kind of
like open world
it does
samurai
kind of
games.
it does kind of feel that way. It also seems a little more like specifically focused on like the the encroachment of Westerners. Like that guy at that shot or whatever in that port, like there's an American flag there. Like
Yeah, and
that's
then
like
obviously
is
this
that supposed to
homie
be
right here.
is that supposed to be Matthew Perry? Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Um, I don't know enough about like the specific time period it's in. Oh, it said 1863.
Yes,
When did
so that's
here? One second. What Commodore
probably.
Matthew?
Sorry, I'm looking up.
Oh, he actually died in, um, died. He was years of service. He was no longer in the Navy in by 1858. So it was before 1863 that he did the whole reopening Japan shenanigans.
But yeah, I assume this is around like the
But
last samurai times, right?
sure, this would have been during the American Civil War too, if it's
Yeah.
1863, of course. But um, the uh, it looks really interesting. Like I appreciate the idea. Like, oh, it's a response to
Okay,
these
so
things.
this
It's like Team Ninja and I can't. Who's the developer that made Neo?
Team Ninja. So it's the
Is it
same
all Team Ninja?
developers.
I don't know
Yeah.
why they said okay. So they didn't make it clear that it was. I think they the way it was phrased in the headline was kind of confusing that I
So
saw. So
Koei Tecmo is the publisher, Team Ninja's the developer.
got it, got it, got it, got it. So I'm not a big fan. I haven't been a big fan of like the old Team Ninja stuff. I'm not like a Ninja Gaiden person or any of that. And
Those
um,
games also fall into that realm of like I don't feel as mobile as I should be.
sure. So
Yeah,
we'll see
and
how they
that's
do. We'll see how they do with it. It is since it is an open world action.
the
Like
novelty
I
of
think
the
I don't know if it's an action
samurai
RPG so much, but like
setting will be enough for
yeah,
me to at least try it, you know.
right. And I think if as a Japanese developer, I think they can actually give and I don't think that Ghost of Tsushima did, like, a bad job from all the accounts I saw, but, like, because they are I mean, that's kinda silly, but give them dataless wings, uh, it's gonna have some absurdities in it, but I think, like, overall, the tone and the sensitivities will probably be much more
And
there,
also
which I
just
think is
go ahead and finish your thought and then I'll add my little
no, no, that's all I'm saying, like,
okay.
I think there's a certain amount of, like, you can you can read about, you can have consultants, but if you're ultimately like still
It's gonna be an
a
outsider
Western developer, there's gonna
like
be some parts that you're kind of just you're writing them from an academic perspective, and
yeah, it's an interpretation more than
I don't think that's necessarily bad,
no, no,
but
no.
it's interesting to see someone do it like from like it is their own history
And
kind of thing.
it'll also be interesting
So
because like Tsushima was an island and it was set in like the
mhm.
1400s. So it'll be interesting to have an open world game set. You know, look, this is an established city.
This is also from
You know,
the the brief like description of what the game is. It's based like on the shogunate and like
yeah, because
shogunate and anti-shogunate forces.
this is right before
So
the Meiji Restoration. I had looked up, so
right,
it's right
right.
before like the fall of like shogunates and all that, and then they go into more centralized government overall. So it'll be interesting. And then again, like it's a looks like a bustling city. Of course, you're gonna have the outskirts, but then
And then you
like
have a glider.
and then you have
Now
your
every game has to have
has
a
to have a
glider
glider.
now.
Now that like uppercut slash going into like a fucking pile driver. Yeah, like you
That's
said,
what I'm saying.
there's
It's
gonna be
gonna
those
have
absurdities,
absurdity.
and I'm okay
It
with
is
that.
it
I'm not
is
mad
it
at
is
that.
it is Team Ninja
Mm.
making a samurai game.
It's
It's
not
not even
Tsushima where like they're
It's
going.
not even From Software making a samurai game because I
Mm,
think even From Software would be much more staid with their combat systems.
mm.
Except, I mean, they made what's it called, but that wasn't intended to be like a
Yeah, I mean like
historical game.
this last shot
What's the
where he
game they
did
made? I can't think of the name right now.
Sekiro.
Yes, that one, but that wasn't meant to be a historical
Yeah,
samurai game. That was a not even really a samurai game. It
like
was
right
more of
here,
a
he just like full on executes him with a revolver. You know, like there's the absurdities that I'm okay
well,
with.
that's not that. I mean, it's 1863,
No, that's not absurd, but like
so
when you think samurai,
yeah.
you don't expect him to pull out a fucking revolver and just shoot a guy, right? You
No,
know.
then again, you use the tools that you have at your
Exactly.
disposal.
So
So
yeah, I should have mentioned this one. I forgot about it mostly because I think it was 2024, so I was thinking more in like what's coming closer. And I
sure,
say as I mentioned, like a dragon, which is also 2024, but like
right, right.
I was just so excited for it, Connor. But yeah, that's all the games that like we're excited about that came from announcements this week.
I have one more that I'm
You
kind
have
of
one
curious
more.
to see to
Okay.
play. Yeah, sorry. Uh,
Connor, you got to
the
put them on the
Sin
notes.
Synduality. Well, that's fine. I wasn't prepared. Synduality is looks interesting. Um, it's probably not something I would get day one or anything, but if it comes out and it gets decent reviews, and then
Oh,
it
this looks very
has
anime.
it
I
kind of looks that
remember.
way. It also has like it has
What do you
elements
say,
that feel
Clark? Is that?
it has elements that feel a bit like what's it called? Death Stranding. Maybe more. It looks like there's more combat involved than Death Stranding, but the combat almost looks a little bit better.
Okay, I was gonna say like that other shot was definitely CG. Okay.
Yeah. So
I
I'm
I saw this and
intrigued by the
I was interested, yeah, when
I'm
I saw this.
intrigued by the like the mech stuff and to see like how they pull it off or whatever,
That
but
pulse
like
scan, yeah, and then like this mining of shit.
yeah, and they call the mechs cradle coffins. So, okay. I mean, and
That's
then your AI
fantastic.
partner is called Magus, one of those.
Um,
Um
2023.
it's
There's gonna
probably
be
going to get
anime.
annoying. It's
So
probably going to get annoying hopefully they don't get so annoying like Navi and
yeah.
we don't have to deal with that nonsense.
So
But
I wonder. Yeah, it says third person action game, but like I wonder what is it gonna lean into action or is it more like
so it has a PvP and PvE elements going on in it
oh
apparently. So we'll see how
that's
that
a little
goes.
upsetting to hear. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I don't know if it's like it might have a single player campaign that also has elements like that. I don't know.
Hmm.
Maybe if it plays it closer to like what Elden Ring did, then cool. If
Yeah.
it's more like a persistent world that people can jump into and like mess you up, then I'm not as like I don't know how I feel about it.
Hmm.
Um, yeah,
Okay. No,
looks
no.
interesting.
It looks yeah. It looks weird.
I'd want
I
to see
like weird
reviews and
things.
possibly get it on sale, but like, um, it's
I have a
it's something
feeling it's
different.
gonna
It's
be
something
like
a
a
bit.
7 to 8. If I had to guess
It's
right off the
something
bat.
sure. It's something new. It's something different. Like I think I'm
I
still at
I
that
understand
point in
that.
my
I
life.
understand
I'm
that
still at that
sentiment.
point in my life where like I only have so much time to put into these games
Hmm.
and I can't play everything and I want something that is like a unique experience that like makes me feel something.
Anything, Connor. No, yeah, that looks dope. It looks fun. I again, I wonder how much of it's combat, how much of it's gonna be that like mining exploration, and how do they, pace it? Because I don't
Yeah,
think it's not mentioned in anything I've read in the last like 5 minutes that's open world, but who knows? But yeah, it looks interesting. I'm down to try it. But yeah, those are our reactions, which basically turned into practically a full length episode. So we're just gonna call it that at this point.
that's fine.
And that's fine.
So it
Um,
goes.
so it goes. So yeah, um, that's it. I think Tokyo Game Show's happening right now, but I think there haven't been any super big announcements from there. I think the only big showcase we have coming up would be Game Awards in December, which I want to check the date because if that's a decent time, maybe
What
we could
is?
be like in a
Sorry.
live streaming situation. The Game Awards.
Yes. What time is
Uh,
it supposed to be? I'm sorry.
December 9th. So
Mhm.
that's a Friday. So we could do an actual live stream of that reaction,
What time of the day is it at?
5 p.m.
Oh yeah.
Because I that's a Friday. I'm off work. I'm down to do that. All right, but anyways,
Yeah.
thank you for watching or
I could always
listening.
request that day off.
I say watching because we're gonna try to have these up on YouTube now, and I'm working through having gameplay of what we're talking about on the screen. And today worked pretty successfully, so I'm proud of myself.
Yeah.
Yay! All right, thank you for listening.
Bye for now.
Bye.